Thanks guys for coming down to the session here. Really awesome this morning on what we were hearing upstairs. I want to kind of counter off of that and figure out how are we going to implement, how are we going to do things better, how are we going to feed the world, how are we going to be more sustainable, and be able to show you guys some of the things that we're working on, some of our viewpoint on this. Kind of a preference, I'd like to get a little bit of a feel in the room on kind of demographic here so I can help tailor, because I want you guys to get as much benefit out of this as possible. How many landowners, land investor people? Raise your hand there. Okay, majority for sure. Farmers? Oh, a lot of farmers. Fantastic. Okay, so I'm both those as well. What about just ag, industry, that, government? No government. All right, cool. We can say whatever we want. Good deal. All right, so we'll jump right in here and show you guys some of the things we're working on. My name is Mitchell Hora. I'm from Southeast Iowa down in Washington County. Actually, I got a little bit of a flood here for this to work. And grew up on a family farm down there. Corn soybean operation, not that big, only about 800 acres. Like I raised my hand, I'm a landowner as well. I got 40 acres. So implementing, I'm joining the ranks for you guys. And but anyways, we're doing a lot of implementation of conservation and whatnot down there. Washington County has a lot of cover crops, a lot of diverse landscape, a lot of hogs being raised in the area. And a lot of just a conservation culture, I kind of call it, on taking care of our soil, just being a little bit more cautious, I think, of what is going on in our soil. So the whole reason I bring that up is because as a young guy coming out of college, I've been able to learn from a lot of those people and be able to scale up what we've been able to see, learn from the rest of you folks as well, what you've seen on your operation, how we can learn from each other to truly be more sustainable, to improve our farms, to improve soil health, and to improve global food security and whatnot. My biggest takeaway from that last speaker, who I thought was really awesome, was we are going to be a food superpower for a long time. And we're going to have to feed more people. Maybe not 10 billion people, like he said. You know, there might be some caps to it. But we are going to have to feed more people. But we're going to have to feed them a better quality crop as well, a more sustainable food source, more nutritional food source. And we get that out of our soils. So I'm going to tell you about how we go about that today and try to be tactical on what you can do on your own operation. These are some of the things that we're doing back on our farm. Implementing and experimenting what we use cover crops now. This is our 4th year. So we're not experts at it, not even close. But we know that we're going to have to utilize management practices like cover crops. We're going to have to take care of our soil. We're going to have to reduce erosion. But we can also utilize better products as well that are going to help us to get there and help us to improve our soils. So I want to talk today about sustainable agriculture. Sustainable food markets and whatnot that are emerging, that are going to pay us more for our efforts, that are going to pay us directly for the impact that our farms and our soil is making on the environment and our ability to produce food sustainably. There's 4 main, to preface all of it, the whole point of sustainable agriculture, connecting with our consumer, and showing them where their food comes from. The whole point is you are what you eat. You are what you eat, and you are what that food eats as well. And that all, for the most part, besides now there's stuff being raised in labs and whatnot, but for the most part, what you eat got its original nutrition out of the soil. And that's where we're going to start as landowners and as farmers, taking care of that soil. The emerging markets that we need to be paying attention to boil down to these 4 kind of components on here. Talking about carbon credits, okay, and why carbon credits are important. It basically boils down to greenhouse gas emissions and whatnot, and that there is a lot of CO2 being emitted into our atmosphere. A lot of that, is coming from industry and whatnot. And industry is seeing us as landowners, as farmers, as a broad acre system to be able to reduce the impact that the entire global system has put on the environment. So they're saying, hey, we can reduce our impact on the environment by improving those soils, by putting it back into the soil. So we need to be able to quantify that. The item number 2 that they're going to look at is they want to make sure that we are improving water quality. What I thought was cool on the last speaker's slides, is looking at that Mississippi River Delta system and looking at that massive area that we are impacting. Lose my stuff here. So on that water quality, we need to make sure that we are being efficient with nitrogen, phosphorus, other nutrients, helping our farmers, and a lot of you are farmers, but helping the tenants of your farm or being cautious on your own farm to make sure that we are being efficient with nutrients. We can allow the natural system to work and to be efficient for us. Item number 3 is that we need to improve water quantity. Okay, so why are these components important for the big food companies, the end consumer, the government organizations and whatnot, is that we can impact these things at scale. And we can show those groups that have the dollars, here's our efforts that we're making to help you. The more water that we can hold in our soils and that we can infiltrate into our soils reduces the mass flow of water going into our streams and rivers. That mass flow that's causing flooding and whatnot, like we've seen in Cedar Rapids especially, has been hit hard, and that's why they've taken a big interest in this. But for me, these components are really interesting because if I improve my water holding capacity, my water quantity in my soil, if I improve my water quality coming off of the soil because I'm using nutrients more efficiently, and if I'm sequestering carbon out of the atmosphere, building organic matter, and those kind of components, those are all good things to me as a farmer too. We can use nutrients efficiently, hold our soil where it needs to be, and hold more water so we can withstand and be less susceptible to any kind of weather patterns that are thrown at us. The 4th component that's on here is really my favorite one, is that we need to improve crop quality. A lot of you guys probably like my crops this year, we had a lot of disease, we had stuff that fell down. The yields were there, our yields were, they were pretty darn good. But the quality of that crop still needs to definitely be improved. And that crop quality stems from a good nutritional balance in the soil. Okay, so these components that are on here, why I'm talking about them, why I'm preferencing to be focused on these 4 things, is that these are coming out of the Noble Foundation, coming from Land O'Lakes, coming from General Mills, coming from Whole Foods and Field to Market. Some of these big organizations are saying we need to be focused, especially on this top 3 things. Like I said, mine is that 4th one. Then we need to improve quality. And they're saying we need to be able to map these things. We need to be able to map them back to the farm and get an economic system that rewards people or penalizes them for their impact on these components. Now we're going to talk about how we're going to get there, how we're going to make this happen. A lot of that is through quantifying what's going on in your soil. Stop me anytime too if I go fast, clear, and slow me down and make me clarify some stuff. But we'll get into how this is all going to come about. A couple of these groups that you see on the slide I already kind of mentioned, these are the guys who are really being outspoken about leading the charge here to improve food sustainability and implement regenerative agriculture. Okay, these groups have met up, they put together that list of components that I've said on the slide previously. Said we need to be able to implement these things. We need to be able to implement this at scale. That means impacting land and impacting farmers to be able to change our practices and do a little bit better. They're saying we need to be sustainably sourced and whatnot. A lot of these companies have come out saying that they're going to be sustainably sourced and they're going to put some labels and whatnot behind it. They're going to do some branding behind it, and they're going to be more sustainable. But for the most part, they don't necessarily know what that means. They don't necessarily know how to get there. So that's where us as landowners, as more educated landowners, need to be part of that conversation to help to drive so the end result actually makes sense and that we're actually able to make a positive impact on those 4 components that I mentioned earlier, and that by improving our system that we are able to thrive economically as well. To me, a sustainable system is only sustainable if there is dollars in the system. If we are running out of money, if the farms are running out of money, the farms aren't able to sustain themselves, then there's no way you're going to have a food system that's sustaining itself either. So there's got to be some economics coming into this system. For me as a farmer, I like some of those components because they do make some economic sense for me in the short term. It does make economic sense for me to improve organic matter, to improve nutrient efficiency, to hold more water in my soil. Those things can impact my economic bottom line. But I've got to be able to logistically do it. I've got to be able to strategically improve those parameters. And that's what we can work together here, help each other out, and be able to actually do that. So these companies right now, they're saying, okay, hey, we got to join together. We got to be able to produce food more sustainably. We need to have a metric. We need to have some data behind this. So they're kind of trying to model off of what organic has already done, what non-GMO, grass-fed, some of these other labels have already done to say if you meet these certain criteria, you fit into our system. And you can be on our shelves, or we can source for you, or you can get a little premium. Some of these organizations are saying, we'll provide you a 10-cent premium. ADM did that. They were saying, hey, we'll provide you a little premium for soybeans that were produced on cover crop farmland. They were doing that out of Muscatine here this year. There's groups like Indigo Ag. They're saying, hey, we'll give you a 10-cent premium for your grain that you're selling back through that we're deeming as sustainable. So 10-cent premiums on a bushel of corn, not a big deal, but they're starting somewhere, and they're starting to prove a concept, to prove a system that based on how we farm needs to drive the price that we're getting. And because of how we're farming is impacting those four components that I brought up to begin with. Okay? So these guys are saying, all right, we need to be able to quantify, or we need to be able to monitor these components. So the grain that's coming through our system, we're going to have a standard, a metric to be able to quantify, to be able to keep track of how it was produced. Land Lake Sustain has been one of the first groups that's come out with this. They've got their TrueTerra platform, where essentially you go onto your system and you say, am I using cover crops? Check the box, yes or no. Am I using no-till? Check the box, yes or no. Am I using nutrient management or split applications? Am I using stabilizers? Am I doing some stock nitrate sampling? Those kind of things. The more boxes you check, the more points you get, the better your premium that you've got, and the better market fit that you have. Okay, so that's kind of cool. You know, the more things that I do on my farm, the more dollars I can get back out of it. It's kind of like what CSP does and some of our government programs right now. The more things you do, the more points you get. Okay, that's cool. There's multiple other platforms that are doing that same thing. Indigo Ag has a new one that's coming out. Field of Market already has a platform like this. Soil Health Partnerships tied in with one that's doing some of this. To be able to quantify what is, or just keep track. It's a record-keeping system of what's happening on the farm. And because of how it was produced, here's the premium that you can earn because of how you produced it. Okay, so that's pretty cool. So they're saying, all right, based on this standard, based on this reporting, we're now going to have these farms are sustainable and they meet our criteria, and these farms are not. Now, I don't know that they're going to change and say, we're only going to source from you because you meet our criteria, and we can't source from you anymore because you don't meet our criteria. Not sure if that's going to happen quite yet. But they're going to say, here's our pool that we're sourcing from, and now today 10% of it fits in our standard of sustainable, and over time we're going to track to see how big of a pool we can build. It's kind of what they're going for right now. Here's how many acres, here's what percentage of our area is using things like cover crops, and as we improve the percentage of farm ground that we're sourcing from, we're able to tell that story. You know, that's kind of what General Mills and these guys are going after, being able to tell that story. So for me, I want to draw a little analogy here. So they say we need to do this global assessment of soil health and global assessment of sustainability. We're going to have this metric to be able to quantify it based on your management practices. So what if we were to do a full study of human health in the same way? And we're going to say we're going to do a global assessment of human health, and we're going to find the healthiest person in the world to the least healthy person in the world. And you know, if you meet a certain threshold, then good job, you're healthy. And if you're below that threshold, then you're not healthy. So we're all going to go into our doctor. We're all going to have an examination for our global assessment of human health. And they're going to sit you down. They're going to say, do you work out? Check the box, yes or no. Do you eat healthy? Check the box, yes or no. Do you get the right amount of sleep? Check the box, yes or no. Do you stay away from tobacco or those kind of things? Check the box, yes or no. The more boxes you check, the more points that you get, the further up the scale on a global assessment of human health that you are. So if you do all these things that they deem as healthy for a human, then good job, you meet the standard and you are the healthiest human in the world. Everybody on the same scale. They're never going to go in and check your vitals. They're never going to check your height and weight. They never check your cholesterol, your blood pressure, your blood sugar, or your metabolism. They're not going to do any of those scientific practices, those scientific tests that we know are super important to assess our human health. So we know that that wouldn't make sense. And not every single person can be measured on the same scale. We're all very different. You can't necessarily combine together an assessment men versus women, or older people versus younger people, or based on your height and weight. You're in a little bit of a different pool. So we need to have a peer group. We need to be able to say, okay, here's how I compare to others around me, but really to assess human health, it just depends on myself. And here's where I'm starting today. Here's the numbers behind it. Here's the practices that I'm doing too. Maybe I'm working out a little bit, but I could probably work out more and be a little bit healthier. Maybe I'm eating okay, but I can eat healthier and I can move up the scale a little bit. Because our human health is all determinant of ourselves. And it's all relative to ourselves. And we can quantify that and we can make improvements to improve our own health. Same thing now for the soil. As I mentioned before, right now these organizations are saying the more boxes you check, the more points that you get, without actually quantifying what's going on in our soil. So how do we know what is our impact on organic carbon or on the climate? How do we know how we are impacting nutrient efficiency and water quality? How do we know that we're putting more water into our soils? And how do we know that we're getting better crop quality? That's when that really takes some data. So that's where we're here today. I've been working with People's Company for the last couple of years to implement a universal soil evaluation. And what we need to do is be able to put some numbers behind all this. So we have some metrics to be able to go off of. So we can say, hey, these guys are doing good on this system, on this scale. And they've got a farm that's close to mine. It's in the Des Moines Lobe, and I'm in the Des Moines Lobe, or it's down in Washington County like I am. And I want to compare to other farmers around me and see, how do I improve? How do I improve my soils to really be more sustainable, to produce better yields, to produce yields more optimally, using my inputs optimally. And now we can quantify those things with better soil parameters, with good data. Part of what I do to be able to assess this is we're assessing the chemical, physical, and biological properties of the soil. We can't just go about it and look at only organic matter, or only soil texture, or only water infiltration, or whatever it may be, only organic carbon. There's a lot going on to it. Just like we couldn't only look at human health and say, here's your blood sugar, and we're going to measure everyone just on blood sugar. There's a lot more to it. It's a very comprehensive system. So that's why we go about this in a very comprehensive way to assess our soils. And by bringing in that data, we can actually now build off of it, and we can improve, and we can strategically implement better management practices, better products as well, that are proven to be able to impact these systems. So part of that, what we do is we're looking at soil functionality information. And my friend Brent's in the back, we use the trace genomics DNA sequencing evaluation as part of where this goes, to be able to utilize soil DNA to be able to evaluate soil function. Kind of like how we're now evaluating our human metabolism and our human DNA, we can do the same thing for the soil. We can see the specific species of microbes in my soil and how they function to help that soil to produce organic matter and to cycle phosphorus and to eat up and return to the soil my crop residue, my cover crop residue, or how they influence the anhydrous or the ammonia, the urea or the UAN that I'm applying to my field. And based on the microbial species in that soil are going to influence how that soil functions. We also utilize tests like the Haney soil health test to tell me what are my available assets right now? What's in my soil right now that my plant is able to utilize? And now based on my soil function, based on knowing what's available right now, I can make a better application decision on how much do I still need to supplement. Might not be as much as what we're supplementing right now. Because as we build those biological communities, as we build soil health and true resiliency, we build a biological system, a biological equation, and we go away from a chemical equation kind of like what we're in right now. There's kind of a lot. I'm getting all revved up on talking about this, sorry. So it really boils down to me that we need to be able to produce better quality food, a more nutritionally balanced food, and that's really how the economics of this come into play. Okay, so as we talked about in a session here earlier, we need to be able to feed more of these people, but we got to be able to feed them good quality food. And some of the things I keep hearing about is that in America, we eat like the most calories out of any other country in the world, but we're still like almost the most malnourished. Because we're eating calories, but they're not good. They're not the nutrition that we really need. We have a lot of chronic illness and disease and cancers and Alzheimer's and these things that are going up, which are all dependent on the nutrition of our bodies and being able to get our own metabolism, our own immune systems to work efficiently. It takes micronutrients and it takes nutritional balance to be able to do all that. There was an article that was just put out here a couple weeks ago. It's on my LinkedIn, you can find it there, on the future of food boils down to two words, and that's personalized nutrition. So just as we're going to be able to better understand how our own bodies metabolize food and utilize different kinds of carbohydrates, different kinds of fat, different kinds of protein more efficiently, as we understand our bodies better, we can now fine-tune the foods that we are putting into our bodies. And why I think we need to be cautious of this and paying attention to sustainability, regenerative ag, quantifying these parameters that are coming out of the soil, is because we're able to actually put real data behind this. The consumer right now is very focused on the foods that they're eating. They're cautious about what those labels are that's on their food. That's why the demand for organic and for grass-fed and these components continue to go up, is because there is a value behind that label. Now, whether that be just a perceived value or true value, depends on how you want to take it. You can argue it either way. But what I see is going to happen now we have the science, we have the technology to show true scientific value in the products that we are producing. Whether that be the true scientific value, the true nutritional value of an animal that was raised in a more modernized system versus one that was raised in a more traditional system. Or we can show the nutritional value of a crop that was raised in a row crop setting that's raised conventionally versus one that was raised organic. Really what it all boils down to is what is the true quality of that grain, of that food. That's important because this is all becoming available to the consumer through tools like blockchain, through tools like 5G, internet, and everything being connected instantaneously. We can now see all of this actual data. Not just see the label, but see the true data behind it, see where that food came from. For us in row crop setting, like I am, in a corn and soybean system, we're not necessarily selling that corn and soybeans direct to the end consumer. So how does it work for us? Well, the corn and soybeans that I'm raising are probably going through a hog, or are going into soybean meal, eventually into a hog, or they're going through ethanol, or whatever it may be. It just takes another step before it gets to that end consumer. So we need to say, okay, here's my impact on the environment from the soil where that corn or soybean was raised in the first place. Now it's being transported and going to a hog producer. Now I need to quantify what is their impact on the environment and on water quality and on better quality of the pork that they're producing, and that goes to the end consumer. See, it becomes a chain here. And through blockchain, we're able to see all those components instantaneously. They've already been able to prove that out. Folks like Walmart and whatnot have said we're going to utilize blockchain to connect this system together. And essentially blockchain, for those of you who aren't as familiar with it, it's a sequence of components of data that are linked together. So you can't go in there and manipulate one piece of data without it manipulating the other one. And then it throws out a flag and you know that it's been tampered with. You can't break the system. So that data, the data continuity, becomes more transparent and becomes more direct between the end consumer and where that food came from. And that transparency happens in a system that's all around the world. A couple other things I want to get get into some questions. I think we've got on a lot of it. To me, it all boils down to creating balance in our system. So just as humans, we need a balanced diet, you need a balanced, a work-life balance, or you need input into your system that's balanced. You need a balanced, activity and whatnot. But that's different for every person, but it really all boils down to balance on our own level. Same thing for our soil. That's why we can have this conversation here, even though we all farm different soils, we all own different soils, work on different soils, it all boils down to the same thing. I do a lot of work in Southern Africa, and I've already given a very similar presentation like this to my folks down in Southern Africa I work with. But we're able to have the same conversation with them because it boils down to creating balance in the system. It boils down to utilizing my resources that I'm inputting onto the farm efficiently, but also remembering that as we're raising corn and soybeans, we're removing a lot more nutrients, a lot more variety of nutrients and inputs versus what we're applying back on the farm. So we need to make sure that we're applying back on a nice balanced nutrition for that soil and for that crop that we're producing. It all boils down to that. It boils down to the balance. It boils down to an economic balance as well, an economic balance through the whole system. And because it is more transparent, we're going to be able to see a lot of that. We'll be able to channel those dollars and channel that consumer interest back to us on the farm so we can actually implement and we can actually make meaningful global change. So I want to get into maybe a little bit on some of a little bit more tactics on how we're doing this. Like I said, we've been doing some stuff with Steve Brewer, on his farm, and now we're able to kind of get that scaled up here a little bit more. Is that all of this data is going to be reported into that blockchain kind of system. We're already doing it. You have My John Deere, you have Ag Infinity or whatever, or your climate canvas system that's collecting all your data instantaneously anyway. You're already reporting a lot of it to the cloud. Now we just got to be able to connect the dots. And one of those missing dots is this soil component, to be able to say, okay, here's my soil parameters, and here's some proof that I'm doing things better, that I'm being more sustainable. And for me, as a landowner, I think a lot of you guys as well, that that have tenants on your farm, you want to make sure that they're doing things better as well. So they need to be more transparent with you also. And they need to say, yeah, I am raising this yield, and I'm being more efficient, and I'm putting those nutrients back onto my soil. But now we can actually quantify that, and we can make sure that everyone is following through and holding up their end of the bargain by quantifying these parameters. We're going to be reporting that into the end consumer and showing them here is where that food's coming from. Here's the efforts that I'm making. Now support me as I go along my journey. I want to get on one more component here, and I'll talk about this because really this is the company I'm running here now. Is in order to implement this, one of the things that I see that's missing is we need to calibrate these testing mechanisms. We need to calibrate where is our organic carbon at right now, what is our nutrient efficiencies right now, what is our water holding capacity, our infiltration, our aggregate stability right now, and then we can improve upon that. We can say, here's how I compare to my peers around me, and here's the effort that I'm making to improve my system. Now we know that as farmers, we can utilize that improvement to be more profitable in the short term, while groups like Noble Foundation, General Mills, Land Lakes, and Walmart, and Amazon, Whole Foods, and Kellogg's, and Campbell's, and all these guys are building the system, and building the dollar figures to more directly connect with us. We can be improving our economics in the short term. And then as they're coming to us saying, hey, we want crop that was raised more sustainably, we want crop that was raised on cover crop farms, we want crop that is having a positive impact on the environment, a positive impact on water quality. We can say, hey, here we are. We already got it. We're already at scale. Here's our data. Here's our data. We have the proof right here to be able to show you how we've done things better. So that's what we're building that system up, to be able to calibrate these tools, be able to have a consistent sort of language here where we can learn from each other. We can say, here's what I've tried on my farm. I've been able to improve my parameters. You can try it on your farm as well. Here's how I logistically did it. It takes a lot of videos and tweeting and be able to show, here's what I did on my farm, and you can do it as well. You can go and you can improve. All of these decisions will happen instantaneously in the future. As these data systems are built, as autonomous machinery, as machine learning, as artificial intelligence, AI, continues to build, those application decisions, those management decisions on our farm will go automatically based on the data. That's why we need to understand our soils now. We need to understand how our soil functions so we can manage it most efficiently, so you can return better dollars back to your pocket today and be more long-term sustainable for the future. Because as we saw, there earlier, we're going to be a food power for a long, long time. We need to make sure that we have the soil resiliency to be there and make sure that we are able to hold up our end of this deal and feed, fuel, produce fiber for a continually growing world. Is there any question? I don't know how much time I have. Does anyone know what time? What time we have? It'll pop up. This is.
You have till 11:15, about 12 minutes.
12 minutes. Okay, perfect. So we got some time. I know I went through some of this stuff kind of quickly. I can show some of the example stuff. This is probably the most important: is staying connected and being able to implement this, across our farms. Now we're building in these tools and whatnot, scaling this up. We're able to actually make an impact here. There's a lot of other groups, like I said, who are working on it as well. We're trying to implement. This is not quite happening at the speed that it needs to yet. But yeah.
Yeah, question. When you're talking about the different, whether organic matter, have they done any tests on grain to see from a farm with really low organic matter and low fertility versus higher, or
How it impacts
soybean
grain.
wheat?
So really, really good question. So his question is, especially in relation to organic matter or to just some of these other soil components, have they done much testing of that grain quality to be able to see, does it really make an impact? And there's a couple farmers that have done a lot of work on it. Gabe Brown, Dave Brandt, some of those guys are they're way out here on this system. They've done a lot of that. There are universities that are evaluating this, and it does make sense that in order to improve that grain quality, it's got to get those nutrition from somewhere. So we know that it is going to directly impact. And evaluating that quality, really, there's testing mechanisms and whatnot. They're doing it too. Indigo Ag is doing some testing as part of their system also. So it'll probably be part of it. So when you're going and having your grain probed and whatnot at the elevator, we're probably going to be doing some quality testing as well. There's already a little bit of that going on, for protein content, for energy content, nutrient balance. I think that's how we communicate with the pork guys and the hog producers and chicken producers, poultry guys, whatnot better, is to say, here is the proof that it really does have, 3 points higher protein versus the conventional system that you're sourcing from right now. So there is a lot of that, but we're going to have those checks and balances to it. I envision a lot of that quality testing is going to happen as part of this. Exactly how I said that we can't just say, okay, you do this, you check the box, so it must be better. We need to be able to quantify that. It must be better part. Not just because how we raised it probably means it's going to be better, but we're going to have all that quantified together. Where this goes, though, and a component that I've reached out to the guy who's developing it, so in some of my future presentations that will be included in my slides, is that there are right now, in order to quantify real quality, there are companies right now that are developing real-time sensors to be able to quantify the nutritional quality of any food that they're pointed at. And what they're actually doing is they're talking with the phone companies right now to put those sensors to evaluate crop quality in your phone. Phase 2 of those sensors is to evaluate toxins and whatnot, aflatoxin, that kind of stuff. And phase 3 is pesticides.
So when you talk with all the phone companies,
Yep.
are you going to establish the same
Same thing.
requirement for all of them?
This
Because they don't all get along.
Right. That deal with these sensors, there's a nonprofit organization who is leading that. I don't know a lot about them, so I don't want to give the wrong information on that. I just know that they're having those conversations. I don't want to necessarily go talk to phone companies, so I'll stay out of it. I just know that the consumer is going to be more connected, and they are going to see what's going on. So when they go and scan that loaf of bread, or that tomato, or that head of lettuce, or whatever, they're going to see the nutritional quality of it in real time. Right now, the sensor, they're disconnected. It's not in the phone right now. It's a handheld device that relays the data to an app on your phone. So that'll all happen right there in real time. But most of our food will be bought on places like Amazon.com and whatnot, where it'll have that nutritional data on there. What I think will also happen is, where I'm scanning that food for the nutritional quality, whether it be with my phone or whatever, I'll also be able to scan right on there the barcodes and whatnot, that'll pop up the nutritional information, will pop up that sustainability information to tell me what were the management practices that went into producing that loaf of bread. What was the farm that produced the wheat? Were they using cover crops or not? Were they using pesticides or not? Is this whatever it may be? Where did it come from? What part of Kansas? Who's the little town? Who's the family and the little kids running around? Who's the drone video of their farm and their family history and their legacy and that? There's a lot of things we can play to our benefit on this and tell our story and show that consumer, here's where your food came from. Here is that nutritional quality. They're going to be more connected and see it. But also, we better be prepared, because like I said, the consumer's going to know where the food comes from. They're going to know all those practices. They're going to know everything that's going on. That's a little scary for me right now, because I know all my corn and soybeans, all my corn it's all GMO corn, and we're using Roundup on everything too. And the way that the consumer views that right now is not good. That to me boils back down to, though, that nutritional quality. So I hope that we can utilize that to be able to defend ourselves and say, here's why we use those things. They're probably going to be ousted. At least Roundup is probably going to be ousted. GMOs, I think, makes sense to be able to feed a growing population and to raise more bushels, more yield and whatnot, and be more sustainable. But they're going to see all of those things that are going on, so we need to be able to back it up and show, here's what we're doing. And yeah, it'll be all right at their fingertips. So that was a really good question to lead into that. Yeah.
When you talk about these externalities that we're trying to recover the cost of, and ADM's paying a dime, but that probably doesn't cover it.
Yep.
So pretty soon we're going to be in, 50 cents? Has anyone ever put a model together that says, here's what it costs to cover these externalities?
Right.
And then, as we make our food, it makes it more expensive.
Right.
So as you go to Whole Foods, you could see what they call a whole paycheck, I think.
Right.
Because you have to spend all your money on the food.
Yeah.
How are we going to feed poor people?
Yeah, in that system. So I think this boils down to, there's always going to be a conventional system like what we're in right now. There's always going to be the generic system, the commodity system. But other groups like organic and non-GMO and whatnot have gone away from a commodity system, and they're demanding a 300% price like you brought up. I don't see this as being that. I think it'd be great to get 10 or 20% premium for the way they were raising things. No, right now, like I said, it's at 10 cents. I think, 10, 20% would really help a lot. Because my view of it is, when the experts sitting right here, Sean McMahon with Iowa Water Lines, let's plug Sean, on being able to implement conservation and water quality in Iowa, the dollar figure on it is astronomical. And even more so, the logistics to be able to implement is astronomical. We've got to be able to get the dollars into that system and create that infrastructure to be able to handle it. And that's where I think it's got to come from somewhere. And that's where they're saying, okay, there's those 4 components of carbon, water quality, water quantity, that we can say, hey, we want to reward you for those efforts. But to me, when the consumer comes down to say, am I going to really put my food dollar to something that is maybe helping the environment or maybe helping water quality, I can't necessarily practically see that. But am I gonna be able to put my dollar towards a food that I can quantify has better nutritional property than the one that's right over here? And this one's 10 or 20% more, 10, 20% more dollars for true quantifiable quality, not perceived quality. I think we're gonna do it. A really, really good question. And that's the biggest thing, that these groups have to figure out how to get the economics into the system. And that's what we're working on, being able to make that happen and be sitting there ready for it when it comes to scale. Really good questions. Sean?
So Mitchell, you mentioned how there needs to be different parameters for soil health and soil resilience,
Yeah.
as much as there's multiple parameters for human health. I know you and a lot of your farmer customers have been working with a whole bunch of different tests, most of which haven't been developed here in Iowa. So
Right.
there's some work that needs to be done, like on the Cornell or the Haney. But I'm curious, what do you think is the value of having a widely accepted soil health metric that can link soil health and land valuation? What kind of signal would that send the landowners about conservation practices on improved soil?
So to me, Sean's question is, kind of pertaining to some of these soil health metrics and the quantifiable data that I mentioned that we're using, and those tools that I talk about, the Haney test, Sean brought up the Cornell soil health assessment. There's multiple others as well that they weren't necessarily developed in Iowa. The Cornell test was developed by Cornell University out on the East Coast. The Haney test by Dr. Rick Haney down in Temple, Texas. In order to utilize any of those tools here, they all have to be calibrated for our system. Just like they had to calibrate what your temperature is supposed to be, 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit or whatever, that had to be calibrated. But really they figured that all out because they evaluated a bunch of people's temperature. They said 98.6 seems to be the average and healthy people have that. So that's kind of the standard. That's the same kind of thing that we're going after for soil. So on how do we get these metrics to be implemented? It's evaluating where are we at right now, who's doing a good job that's producing us a better quality, better quantifiable, positive end result. And showing here's where we are right now. So that's where we've got our data analytics system, senior management, where I can bring in soil data from any lab and from sensors as well, which I think is going to replace things like the Haney test and regular soil sampling. It'll be real-time sensors, not necessarily send data to the lab for that. We'll need to have the more thorough analysis that a sensor can't pick up. That's what Brett's here. So we need to be able to thoroughly assess what's going on, but those quick, real-time assessments of where's my nitrogen and phosphorus and my pH and organic matter, we're going to sense all that on the fly. So then why that is important for a land investor is you need to understand what is the benefit, what's going on in that soil. You need to know what you're buying. And we've had the conversation, Sean and I were up here the last couple of years talking together, that you don't just go in and use Sean's analogy here. You don't go and buy a new pickup truck without looking under the hood and without seeing what's going on. What am I actually buying here? Same thing for farm ground. We use CSR in Iowa, which is your corn suitability rating. It's 0 to 100 scale. That was derived off of properties that we evaluated in the 70s without GPS. The way that we farmed has changed our soil over the last 50 years. Now we have improved technology to assess what's going on in the soil. And yeah, they've got to be calibrated. We've got to be able to come together and build in a lot of data. That's why we've got a system to be able to independently do that with any soil test. I don't care what it is, because the NRCS has their standards coming out. The Noble Foundation has their standards coming out. Soil Health Institute just deployed their scientists. They're testing like 30 properties right now. I don't care what it is. I just know as a farmer, as a consultant, as a landowner, I need to be able to show, here's what I am doing on my farm, here's how I fit compared to my peers, and here's why you should source from me and not necessarily the other guy. We've got to be able to do that at scale to remain that global food superpower that we are now. But any of these testing parameters, whether it be the components of the Cornell test and the Haney test or new stuff, they all have to be calibrated for each geographic location. That's why it's taking the data to start now. Then with the artificial intelligence, like our system is, you can make those inferences faster. Yeah, question?
So how do you deal with Monsanto, the juggernaut,
Yeah.
and Bayer now that has acquired them?
Right.
I mean, I live in Illinois, but I have farms in Iowa.
Yep.
In Illinois, many of the villages are banning Roundup from even being used.
For sure.
So
Yeah.
how is that gonna happen in farmland where if you're a seed grower,
Yep.
they tell you what to put on your fields,
Yep.
and they tell you to put on Roundup.
Right. So, and just to preface too, if you guys, I know there's other stuff going on, and stay as long as you want, I'll answer questions as long as you want, but thanks everyone for coming too. But, so where I think that comes down to is as the consumer is exposed to everything that's going on and they're seeing how much Roundup is being used, it's been a great tool for a long time. I know it's helped our farm to get where we are today for sure. But there's other things that we're gonna have to do, we're gonna have to change, and the consumer is just gonna drive all of it. Like I say, I'm not gonna buy this one over here anymore, it drives the demand, the demand and the dollar for it down. It's simple supply and demand. And right now, the demand for organic and for a more sustainable crop and non-GMO and whatnot keeps going up. So we need to say, hey, we either keep bashing those guys who are making a lot more money than we are, or we say, how are we gonna get better dollars for our efforts too? So I think it's just the consumer and supply and demand. And it'll run them out. And there's others that are coming to take their spot.
And the farmers need to be ready for that.
The farmers gotta be saying,
The
here's the other
perception
things.
out there is big right now.
And they're being more connected than ever, and that's going to continue on that
Yep.
trend. So that's why we've gotta be spreading awareness here that we do need to do things better. But that's why it's starting now too, before all this really happens and really comes to fruition, is that we know this is coming, so we better start making our effort now to figure out how to logistically and economically implement this on our own farm. Now, I appreciate everyone coming, and would love to carry on the conversation anytime. Thank you.
Well, I have a few hundred acres down in Kansas.
Yeah.
Heritage Farm, all that stuff. Absentee.
Yeah.
We've expanded the farm. So, we do all the good stuff. Everything pretty good. But 1 of the 5% of their customers who are managing closely, I'm at the point of seed selection for the last couple of years.
An emergency. Share.
But talk to me about the market, the better
It's
seeds,
not a
the
big
better
deal.
product I
Done
get.
it there.
It just goes into the chain, the classic chain. So what?
Although we are
Now
just
what?
looking at,
And all that effort that you're making to be a better steward, we're not getting rewarded for it.
I'm not.
So-
What's the marketing chain that I need to plug into?
Right, so, but it's not necessarily organic, right?
No, not yet.
Yeah,
No,
yeah,
That's
you're
what
working
I'm
on that, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
So-
Because there you can see the direct system. So I don't have a perfect answer for you for this year right now.
No,
But what
yeah, I'm
is
long
happening?
term. So are my kids.
Yeah, so what is happening is I just had a conversation with Indigo Ag yesterday. They've raised $600 million to be able to do this. And what they have is they have a web-based platform where you can sell your grain into. And you can market this year's grain right now through that platform. And right now, we're not telling the whole story into that system, but they're setting it up to be able to tell the story, be able to tell your story, be able to tell your history as
So
well,
that's
and the
been
effort that
interesting.
you've made.
And then we got
A
through.
group like Indigo Ag is doing that here. I'll write it on here for you.
Okay.
So, none of that is fully going right now. They have their Indigo Insights tool, which will be coming out. So,
Doesn't that depend on me having on-premise storage and capacity to deliver?
Potentially, but those two things, they are taken care of.
Oh, they do? I gotta find out.
You gotta check them out. And okay, so Indigo Ag, so that's hilarious. And those are the two things that you brought up. Right now, they offer 0% financing for people to put up grain bins or to put in bagging systems, but not so just bag the corn, leave it there.
Really?
They also have essentially Uber for trucks.
I knew that was going to happen.
Yeah, yeah. So what they do is they deploy a whole network of people to say, okay, so you market, you
Good for me.
So where I think this really goes is the landowner, or even more so the land manager, is just going to manage all of it, and it's all just going to be custom operated to farm.
Oh, no, I live in a very rural area. I live, in
Having 120 acres on the I know where the next 15, 20, 40 will be.
Oh yeah, that's right around you. To be well, so.